Greetings! As of now, there are survival situations happening on different parts of the world, and one day soon, they may very well be at your doorstep too. Today's video will be talking about 5 misconceptions that are very prevalent, even among intelligent people, and which will guaranteed get you and your family killed if you don't eradicate them and replace them with the correct concepts. There are a lot of people who have emergency survival seeds in a box or in a mylar bag and think that this is their key to survival if anything happens. These people will be dead in a month if that is their solution to their food problem. Let me explain the 2 reasons for that. First and foremost, even if you're lucky enough and the crisis hits you within the growing season, which is quite a short period of time annually in most places, it will still be 2 months minimum from the moment you put a seed in the ground until the moment you eat the first bite of whatever you have planted. What are you and your family going to eat in those 2 months? And second, a nutrition entirely based on vegetables is a terrible idea for a number of reasons. You need animal protein to function properly, especially without artificial supplements, which are to be avoided if you're building a sustainable model anyway. And plant protein, from the few plants that have it, has neither the same amounts of protein as animal sources, nor the amino acid profile that your body requires for healthy function. Having vegetable seeds is not a bad idea as a supplemental food source, but thinking it's your solution to a food crisis is the fastest way to turn you into a casualty of that crisis. As they say, if I had a penny for every time I heard this, so many people think that there will be a crisis and they will go back to the village they come from or some relatives they have who own a farm or something, and they will be fine, so they don't even bother. They really think that in a situation of crisis, where food will be scarce for everyone and desperation will drive people to insanity because they'll need to feed their family, that there will be a table filled with food in some relative's house waiting for them. This approach to survival is not only unrealistic, but it's also immoral. Let me explain. Let's say that those relatives exist. Let's say it's an old man and an old woman who are your uncles or whatever. They have to feed 2 mouths, so the food they have in store is enough for them. Suddenly, you and your family show up, together with maybe 2 children. Now they have to feed 6 mouths. Next day, their 2 children show up, with 2 kids and a spouse each. We are suddenly at 14 mouths and counting. Even if we assume that nobody else will have the same idea, their short-term food supply is now stretched very thin and won't suffice. Even if the added working hands are willing to ramp up production, the short-term food supply cannot change, which means that within the many months that will be required to increase production, the group will starve to death. Or they will be forced to dismiss people from the group to reduce the mouths to feed, which, let's face it, they will not do. So they will all die. Because if they were going to limit the mouths to feed, they would have done it earlier, when they admitted all those people into the group. Very often people, especially people who have very limited contact with raising livestock and who have the right idea about animal protein, think that chickens, pigs and rabbits are great solutions for survival. Even if you have the beginning stock for that, trying to implement it will result to your nutritional death. I explain. Chickens and pigs require grain and high protein feed to raise. There simply is no way around it, the way we have bred those animals so far. And if you don't provide them with that, you will end up with no eggs, skeletal or dead animals, and infertility. In traditional homesteads, chickens and pigs were recycling animals, eating food scraps, and were kept in very small numbers in that case, such as 10 chickens or 1 feeder pig. So chickens and pigs are terrible survival plans, and if you try that, neither they nor you will survive. Rabbits now are a special case. You see, you absolutely can raise rabbits in survival situations, because they absolutely can survive only on grass. So what is wrong with them? Apparently, this has been tried historically and resulted in the death of those who tried it, for the simple reason that rabbits don't have any fat, and fat is extremely necessary for survival, despite all the propaganda against consuming fats. If you want to know more about that, research the so-called rabbit famine of Roman legionnaires, early American settlers, and many others in history. And after you research that, please remember how the medical establishment has been telling us to eat lean meat for our entire lives. This goes back to what we were saying before about extra mouths to feed. What's more, animals are not only costing food, but are food themselves. So there is a strong moral dilemma there in a serious survival situation. In my opinion, in such a case, it would be criminal to endanger your lives or your families just because puddles look so cute. Puddles should become mystery stew, same as was done in every siege, famine, or any other such situation by whoever had not gone completely mad in any population in history. A good example to keep in mind are the Mongols. The Mongols loved their horses, and they were not just useless pets, but they were at the same time their transportation means and their war vehicle. And yet, when the time came, they wouldn't hesitate to slaughter that horse in order to survive, with the culture of eating horse meat surviving to this day among their descendants, whom they have exactly because they did not starve to death by placing an animal's life above a human's. At this point, I need to state this. The one taboo which, in my opinion, should never break is cannibalism. Humans should never eat human flesh, ever. That is because if that barrier breaks, a human starts seeing other humans as food, and that creates a degenerate state so low that death is far preferable to it. Hunting, even as it is now, isn't easy. It requires ammunition and weapons of some sort, and those are best utilized for protection in a survival situation. What's more, if prey is hard to find now, imagine how hard it will be to find when a survival crisis has multiplied the hunters by 100. All of them out in the forests looking to find something to kill and feed their family. Boars that can smell humans will vanish, birds offer very little food anyway, and rabbits, well, we talked about rabbits not being survival food. Animals aren't stupid. They will flee a war zone, and the greatly increased number of hunters will depopulate an area in a matter of days. So unless you live in an area with plenty of prey and a tiny number of people in a radius of 100 kilometers, hunting won't be enough to save you. The only way to realistically survive is to create a small group of people, be it family or otherwise, who all together already maintain at some kind of farm a number of livestock that relies directly on the earth, such as sheep, goats, and cattle. Those animals don't need external feed and can survive on pasture, or in the case of goats, even on brush or forest. If you absolutely must have poultry for the eggs or the meat, you can keep geese, even though they will only give you few eggs a year, but they will be much bigger than chicken eggs and much more nutritious. If you absolutely want to have chickens or pigs, they must be kept in very small numbers and revert back to their traditional place in a homestead as recyclers. Food scraps is something that can be used to feed them, as well as offal from slaughtering animals, although you should try to use every bit that's edible from them too. Creating a food schedule that is realistic will help you determine the number of people you can take with you if something happens. The more you exceed that number, the more you put everybody at risk. Plain and simple. You should also have a plan for increasing production by using the extra people you will have taken in. Obviously, in such scenarios, laziness is not an option, and everyone should pull his weight. Keep in mind that the increase in production will take time though. For example, a cow will produce 1 extra calf a year, and you can only increase production if you're lucky and the calf is female. And even in that case, that calf will be drinking milk that your group could have been drinking, and it will take a total of about 2 years until it will become a mother and thus increase the production of meat and milk. Goats and sheep are a lot better in that regard because they make an average of 2 kids or lambs each. And geese are also a great choice in that because all their eggs can become new geese, so they can multiply really fast. Also, everyone should create food stores, and they should mostly be preserved meats with vegetable-based preserves like sauerkraut and pickled vegetables as a supplement. These stores will buy you time until you ramp up production when you need to do it, and will also determine the number of people you can initially support. If you found some value in this video, feel free to like it or maybe even share it, as sharing is caring. Have a very nice day.